What's up everyone, you're watching Seagrave Serpentarium. I'm Cody, and this here is a 4-foot by 2-foot by yay high fiberglass reptile enclosure where my wife's ball python Slick Mister lives. But it didn't always look like this. When I first brought this home, as well as the other one, I bought two of them. They were in kind of rough shape. They had been outside for some time from what I understand, were missing doors. In fact, here's some footage of how they looked. And what I'm going to do today is take you through my process for how I got them to go from this to this. A usable and pretty effective reptile enclosure. And by the way, in case anyone is wondering, I am in fact a professional herpetologist. So you can trust me and everything I say. Alright, so these things were in kind of rough shape when they came to me, and to start off I wanted to clean off anything that had built up while they were outside for about a year. And then with the door tracks already coming loose, I wanted to just get those removed. At least on one of them I removed the door tracks. I think the other one only had one door track that was really bad. The other one was on there real solid, so I left that. So I got those removed, scraped off the excess adhesive with a painter's tool. Once I had done that, I sanded the surface where I was going to adhere the new tracks. Well, the old tracks, but with a fresh layer of silicone. I sanded that to roughen up the surface to give the silicone a bit more to grab onto. And then applied a layer of silicone, stuck the tracks back on, clamped it on with some clamps, left it overnight, repeated the process on the other side, and got those tracks on nice and tight and secure. Once the tracks were on, it was time to get painting the inside. I personally like the teal color that they came with. My wife felt it was a bit much. We compromised, decided I would paint the insides and leave the border around the front. The back, I figured you're not going to see those. The back is black on one of them, green on the other, so but you don't really see that, so not a big deal. But I needed to paint the inside, and one second, let me grab the Rust-Oleum. I left a mess. Good lord. I don't live like that. That was someone else's mess. So I was using this here Rust-Oleum topside paint, black gloss, which required some sanding before I could apply it. So use this electric corner cat sander, I believe it's called. As you can see, it's absolutely caked in powder from sanding still. For some of the tighter areas, I use this oscillating multi-tool. It's got a sander attachment. So that's what I use to sand the tighter areas. Did all of that in the middle of the night while it was dark and cold outside my garage, because I really wanted to get painting the next day when the weather was going to be good. I don't even remember if I ended up painting that day. But here we've got some footage of that painting day. Got the Rust-Oleum applied. It stank way more than I thought it was going to, but it eventually cured, got it inside, and we were ready to move on to the screens. So you'll see here, one of these had a real rough situation with the screens. It had regular screens that looked like they had come with from the factory on there, on one side, and then on top of that, on the one side, there was this really thick screen plastered on. And then the other side, it was just the thick screen. It was just plastered on, but the plaster only went over the top, and the sides were kind of open. So that didn't really seem feasible. So I took a hammer and crowbar and just broke off all the plaster. It took forever. And yeah, I just had to break off the screens on both sides of one of the enclosures. Fortunately, the second enclosure had both original screens still, one of them fully intact, the other one just had a little hole cut in it. So I didn't have any use for a hole in the screen, so I broke that one out, chiseled away at some of the, I don't know what it was, some sort of thick concrete-like plaster adhesive that came from the factory, and then we were good to go to put in the new screens. So you'll see here, the screen that I got is attached to a wooden door frame. So, hint, possible spoilers, that's from something that's going to be in a future video. And something that's also going to need quite a good bit of work to have finished the way I want it to be. But I didn't want the screens in those doors. It's got 2 doors. I don't want those screens in them. So remove the screen and cut it down into sections to use on these 2 enclosures. Save a little bit of money on having to get screens. And then came the most difficult, most fun, and biggest learning curve part of the whole process. This is U-POL Fantastic Glass UPO 923. It is a automotive fiberglass body filler, I think, is what you'd call it. A lightweight fiberglass reinforced filler that bridges holes and forms a smooth, durable surface that's easy to sand and shape. Can be finished with body filler, glaze, or directly primed. So this is something that car people use and boat people use. I mean, this is also something boat people use. So this was a very boat-like project in many ways. They don't really make reptile enclosures out of fiberglass, so car and boat people were my source of information for what to use to fix a lot of this stuff. And what this stuff does is basically creates a new layer of fiberglass. So you mix it up with the hardener, you take a whole bunch of this and a little bit of this, mix them all together, and you get this paste that you have a matter of minutes to get applied before it starts to harden and becomes difficult to work with. So I had my wife hold the screens in place, started plastering them in with the body filler, and the first time I did it, as you'll see in the videos here, I was using a sheet of cardboard and a spackle knife. That sucked, and I eventually ran out of this stuff. I had to go back for, I think I had to go back for one more. I think this is the second can I got. I may have gotten a third one. But when I went back the second time, and these things are absolutely disgusting now because they're covered in body filler, but I picked these 2 up. This is what I should have had to begin with, is what the car people use and the boat people use when they're using this stuff. You use this to hold it and this to mix and spread it. And without these 2, my piece of cardboard was folding over on me. My spackle knife was too rigid to really be easy to work with. I ended up doing a lot of it by hand. And honestly, it looks pretty bad compared to, I mean, I watched a lot of videos of people using this stuff on cars and boats. And you can smash a hole right through part of your car with a hammer and give some guy a can of this, and he'll take an afternoon and have it looking like nothing ever happened. Obviously, with paint and stuff. But they can get a real smooth finish on this. Not me, I just plastered it on there. And I got enough to hold the screens in, so I'm perfectly content with that. It'll work good enough for the snakes, and no one's going to see it because it's on the back. But anyway, here's some footage of what you do with this stuff. You probably shouldn't go to me in this video as a guide for how to use this fiberglass body filler, but basically you take like a gob of it as like a circle, and then you just put a stripe right over the gob. So like a stripe of the hardener that's the diameter of the gob that you put on your mixing tray is approximately the right amount. I weighed it out the first time. It's got like a weight measurement that they recommend, but it was pretty much what people had said for that rule of thumb of just squirt a gob across the diameter, maybe with a little bit extra, and that worked perfect for me. I really can't recommend this stuff enough. I mean, not that you're really likely to need it, because I can't find many of these fiberglass enclosures for sale online. But if you ever do need to fix up a fiberglass enclosure and you need to patch holes or reattach screens, this product, I personally had good experience using it. It was a fun time, a little bit messy. I wouldn't recommend doing it over carpet or inside your like living space. I used it in the garage. Got a couple bits on the floor, but everything was fine. It's okay to make a bit of a mess in there, so no big issues. After that, it was time to get the doors in. So the issue with the doors, though, is this thing was clearly made with thicker doors in mind, or doors with like tracks around it, or like not tracks, like a frame. And the cheap $15 glass panes I could get at Lowe's were about half the thickness that this track was made for. So what I did was I took a big sheet of acrylic that I had laying around, measured it out diagonally because the sheet was too skinny in either direction to fully fill the door track, because I needed to use it as a spacer. So I had to cut a rectangle across the diagonal of this whole thing, which you'll see in these videos here, and then cut that into really thin strips so I could put that into the tracks with silicone and sandwich the glass in there, because if I had the glass just sitting freely, I was able to push it apart enough to slide a finger all the way in between the two panes of glass. And if I can get a whole finger in there, a lot of snakes would be able to get out of that. Maybe if I only had a very large snake, it would be okay, but definitely not a chance I wanted to take. So I cut the spacers out of the acrylic to make sure I sandwiched it all together. First, I used a glass cutting tool, or not a glass cutting tool, a plastic cutting tool to score and snap. It's basically kind of like a painter's tool. It was just like a sharp edged. Let me just see if I can grab it. There we go, nice. All right, so I used this. Basically, it's just got this really pointed edge. I mean, it's not crazy sharp, but it's sharp enough to scratch plastic. And you just kind of run it along a ruler and scratch the plastic over and over and over until you've like scored your way halfway through the plastic, then you can snap it. That was a pain because you have to score a lot. And because I was cutting such thin strips, like I'm talking like maybe a 1/4 inch thin, really real tiny stuff, because I didn't want it to interfere with the way the door works, where you slide the glass in and then pop it in, because I was sandwiching, I was closing off the ends, if that makes sense. So if the spacers added height to the track, it would interfere with the ability for me to get the doors in and out. So I had to cut super thin pieces of this acrylic, and it ended up snapping a couple times, and I just took a blowtorch and set the ends on fire, blew the fire out, and then held them together, and that worked well enough. Those pieces are in the enclosures now, working just fine. Eventually, though, as you'll see in this video clip here, I switched to the oscillating multi-tool, one of the best tools in the world. I think I'm gonna demonstrate something why I love this so much. Alright, I'm gonna love editing the audio later. So this is the kind of tool that they use to cut casts off of you if you ever broke a bone and had to get the cast removed at the doctor's. And they use this because it will cut through the cast, but not your skin. So the way this thing works is the end just vibrates very quickly. It doesn't spin though, so it's gonna get loud. Actually, I'll just edit it to be quiet. But check this out. So it's vibrating over a very short distance, and your skin is elastic enough to move that very short distance. So if this touches your skin, the teeth just kind of grab into your skin and wiggle it a little bit. It doesn't actually cut through the skin. So this is an extremely safe tool to work with. Super versatile because, like I said, it's got the sander head. It's got this rounded cutting head. You'll see a clip later of me using the straight cutting edge to cut a notch for the wire in one of the sides of one of the enclosure. So it's a great tool, and you can use it without worrying about hurting yourself. And yeah, just for an example. Yeah, perfectly safe, terrific tool, super useful, super versatile. Won't cut through you, but cuts through plastic. I think it cuts through just about whatever. I used it for plastic, wood, all sorts of stuff. It is terrific, in my opinion. So once that was done, put some silicone on the spacers, laid those down in the track, put some other big gigantic sheets of acrylic to hold the spacers in place, and once those had hardened overnight, it was time to get the doors in. Then came the matter of the doors. So the first set of doors I actually got the wrong size, had to get a glass cutting tool, learn how to cut glass, learn how to sand glass as well, learn how to cope with the pain of sanding glass without gloves on and then going to bed with shards of glass in my fingers. And then yeah, went back at it with the gloves on, got the glass sanded down. Oh, also I bled like crazy because I kept cutting my hands on the glass because I didn't sand it soon enough. But live and learn. So I also, as you can see in this clip, had a couple of sheets of PVC trim that I cut and then silicone together to make it 3 thick, so that it would block in the doors, because these doors, I don't know how they were originally intended to work, but the way they are now, if there's nothing on the sides to stop them from sliding all the way off, they just slide all the way off. And the outer door is far enough away from the frame that a snake could easily squeeze right through it. So I stuck on these pieces of PVC trim as a way to keep the doors from sliding out the sides and to keep snakes from sliding out from underneath the doors. Alright, and then we go into sanding and all of that. Once I got these upstairs and was ready to start putting in heating elements and the thermostat, I figured out that I wanted to run the thermostat probes through the side on the bottom. So the first time around, I used the saw blade and the file on my multi-tool. That was a pain. Do not recommend. Second time around, I used the thin straight blade attachment for the oscillating multi-tool. I have a clip of that I'll show here. Very, very quick and easy. And yeah, once that was done, it was just a matter of setting up like any other reptile enclosure. Your substrate, your hides, heating elements, thermostats, and clutter and all of that. Oh hey, I had some housekeeping stuff I wanted to address. So don't know when I'm going to stick this in the video, but sorry it's been a long time since my last upload, about 3 weeks. I mean, that's kind of standard for me, but I went to the eclipse. That was really awesome. Okay, yeah, so I have a new logo done by my friend at Featherbone Studio. You can check them out. I'm going to have the link to their Instagram and website in the description here. Definitely, I love and super appreciate the new logo, and the thumbnail border looks terrific. Really feeling great about getting some level of brand identity here on the channel. So these are pretty much done, and I do mean these, so I'll take you this way real quick. Here in a separate room of the house, in the basement, in the boiler room, we have this. Now why this is in the boiler room and not in the snake room? Well, I mean, that part's pretty obvious. It's for quarantine. But it's being quarantined all the way in the basement. There's nothing in here yet. But I think in the next couple months there will be. And I'm very excited to get that video out to everyone. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. Until next time, I'm Cody. This is Seagrave Serpentarium. And thanks for watching. I'm gonna get roasted by car guys for my bad job at applying body finish. I'm gonna get roasted by tool guys for using Ryobi. They worked for me. They got the job done. Also here, come with me, just to upset the car guys. So there's some HVAC tape on there. But this is my patch job. It looks pretty bad compared to what car guys can do with it. But it's holding, so holding like Caulfield. I love it. It's working great for me. I don't care how rough my application looks.